Assalamu alaikum. I welcome all the worthy panelists and for this important discussion that we must be having long time ago. But I'm glad that today is the day that we have this, um, I would say, a bright leadership in every sector, from women, from in the parliament. All our commissions are actually are headed by the women and are working really hard and taking serious measures to counter many issues that are related to women. I think trafficking is an issue that actually calls for a serious measures, effective measures. But again, women and children are, I think, the again, it's a normal in our society that it's an ignored section of trafficking, and it's never been held separately. We can see that not many policies have been made on this issue. But I would like to engage my panelists first. Aisha, I think a big majority of the internal trafficking is regarding bonded labor and children and the young girls that are engaged in domestic labor. These are also migrated from one city to the other city in Pakistan. Can you please brief us on what measures have been taken regarding having a control on this issue?
Thank you, Bismillah Rahman Rahim. I'd like to appreciate the SSDO for holding a very important consultation today to talk specifically about an issue which is very, very concerning for the National Commission on the Rights of Child, because if we see the figures related to trafficking both within the country and international trafficking, we see alarming figures where children are involved. In bonded labor, child domestic labor, and so forth. So, as per the mandate of the Commission, the first of which is legal and policy advice to the government, the Commission has taken upon itself to hold provincial consultations and draft a bill which is specifically right now caters to child domestic labor, to ensure that we criminalize child domestic labor, make it non-compoundable, non-bailable, cognizable, so that the powerful and well-connected in our country cannot escape justice and are held accountable. We also have in place at provincial level, and especially in Punjab, the prohibition of child labor in brick kiln act that was enacted in 2016. And we do know that at the time, a lot of positive steps were taken to remove children from from bonded labor and put them back in school. Unfortunately, we see today Pakistan having 26.2 million children out of school. This is the number of children who are vulnerable to be sent into labor, bonded labor including, to be vulnerable to all other kinds of sexual abuse, etc., when they're on the streets and not in school here. So we're advocating with the federal government and provincial governments to ensure that where you have sound policy and strict laws, the weakest link remains implementation and enforcement of these laws. So we'll continue to advocate as soon as these new governments are formed at the federal and provincial levels to sort of advocate even better. Two, I think there is a grave need for these new governments to come up with at district level plans of action. The ILO, along with the government of Pakistan, has held most recently a very extensive labor survey, and we have results of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Punjab, and Gilgit-Baltistan available, which give you a very good granular analysis of children, where they're employed, which industries, etc. So at the district level, we are pushing for governments to have their plans of action in place, how to counter bonded labor and domestic labor. And I think what is most important here is at the community level, the third tier here, to work at changing behavior through communication. You know, our mindsets, our attitudes, where we normalize child domestic labor very much. Our children who should be in schools, we have in labor working for us. They should be learning and not earning over here. So we'll continue to advocate and communicate to change behaviors and attitudes and mindsets through television commercials, social media, engaging with religious scholars, with influencers, political leaders, etc., to ensure that we bring about the change that is needed, to demand for governments to better enforce the laws that we have in place. Simultaneously, we're conducting along with SSDO and other civil society organizations, trainings with law enforcement agencies and the police to make them aware of the Trafficking in Persons Act, for example, that we have in the country. That should be better enforced also. Training with the judicial actors in the entire criminal justice system to ensure that they prioritize child rights, they understand the very alarming numbers in that of children in bonded labor and in trafficking, to give it the due attention that it deserves.
Thank you, thank you. Yes, we need a collective effort, and we need every stakeholder to be on board and working hard to counter this exploitation that is happening. I'll move to Uzma Kardar Sahiba. She's a very strong voice in the assembly for on social issues and especially on women. And unfortunately, other things are highlighted, but I know I've seen your work in the assembly. How the rights and needs of the survivors or victims of trafficking can become part of legislative process or can be taken up in assemblies effectively.
Thank you so much. When I became a parliamentarian in 2018, at that time, hardly anybody in our assembly spoke about human trafficking. It was not a subject which actually even parliamentarians were aware about. Then finally, we started having meetings through SSDO, and I think they've been a game changer at the local, national level. They started having different meetings with stakeholders, talking about this, building up awareness. And then slowly and gradually, we realized what a serious issue this was. And we understood that there were two types of trafficking, internal and external. So we focused more on the internal trafficking. Internal trafficking is such a menace. It's an invisible crime, we realized. It is something which is controlled by mafias because there's a lot of money involved in it. We finally did come across certain victims. Previously, it was very difficult for us to even identify victims. They refused to come out into the open. They were afraid. They thought that they would come to some harm because the people who had trafficked them and brought them to this point through exploitation, whether it is for sex or for any other purpose, they were too strong, they were too influential. And for us, it was so difficult to make them come out into the open. They said, look, we've been going through this for years and years. Governments come and go, but nobody seems to break into this network, into this mafia. So if we come out into the open, what is the guarantee that you will give us any kind of protection? And then we realized that it is a very, very serious issue. Many, you'll be amazed. There are hundreds, scores of young girls who are brought, lured from rural to the urban areas. Here, they are housed in private hostels. And we are also now moving towards the registration of those hostels because those hostels were not under any kind of law. They were just operating on their own and doing their own bidding. These hostels are being run by those, influential networks. And they somehow they terrorize these girls that if you come out and if you give our names, you're finished. Your families are finished. So it is extremely deep rooted, and like Mr. Donald Bloom just said, it has implications not just on society, the security, national security, our economy, everything. So it is a menace which has to be curtailed, and I am very happy to now see all of you sitting here because the awareness is now fully established. Everybody knows, everybody is aware that this is something which is really harming us, and it's transcontinental. It's across all borders. It's not just Pakistan. Everybody, even the developed world, is facing this issue, and they still are grappling with it. So we have to sit together, work together, and only then we can mitigate and improve the situation. Number one, these 4 P's, we have to now follow them in letter and spirit. Very happy to see that it's an interdepartmental collaboration now. I've had many sittings through SSDO and also at the district level. I was part of the TIP committee of the Interior Ministry. Uh, we had district level coordination meetings. We had all stakeholders on board. Community is a very, very important stakeholder. Community has to give support to the victims, especially the women and the girls. So when they give support, then they are confident that yes, we will get a redress of grievance and our lives will improve for the better. So bringing all these stakeholders together, following the 4 Ps, improving the prosecution. Now, I was very happy to see that in the curriculum of the police department, we have, trafficking as part of their syllabus. Because previously, police didn't know how to handle it. If a woman did, or if a girl did go, and say that, okay, I've been trafficked and this is what I'm going through, they would just look at that girl and say, what are you talking about? What is this? What is trafficking? What are you complaining about? What do we register? What kind of FIR do we cut here? So you see, these are all issues now which are being addressed. Police, the capacity building of all our departments, our law enforcing agencies, our different labor departments, all departments are now on board. Everybody knows what is happening and how we have to overcome this issue. So hopefully it will filter down, and hopefully all these, we will develop a good victim support system so that this menace can be curtailed, addressed, and then we can say that we've met some measure of success.
Thank you so much, Uzma. We have Ansa Noreen with us. We are honored to have you on board. Ansa, what can we learn from the US experience? Because as Uzma has said that it has many dimensions and very grave kind of things. The mafias are involved, and it sometimes looks impossible to control these things. And again, your society has to be mentally prepared with this kind of statistics of poverty we have. It looks a dream to have that kind of society that is going to support something, that sending their children to schools rather than making them earn money. So how what is the experience of US, if you can talk a little about it?
Sure. Do you want me to start with my personal experience all the way from
Oh
the
yes,
beginning?
that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, so as everybody knows, my name is Ansa Noreen. I come from a very small town in Gujarat. It's called Lakhanwal. Very proud to come from a small town and yet achieve what I have achieved so far in my life. There are experiences, and I always mention that the life is funny sometimes. Your greatest gifts and blessings, they come wrapped in sandpaper. And as I look my life from the perspective where I am in retrospect, it has been terrible experience while I was in that. And since I have come out of that, I have so much to share and give back to the community. I feel really blessed that I have. If I was not through that experience, I would never know that this kind of practices exist even. And even from my own personal experience, when I ended up in a trafficking situation, I got married to this guy who was part of this transnational criminal enterprise. I couldn't believe, and I didn't even know the terms like human trafficking. What is that term? Right? Like many people, as Pakistan is now, oh, I'm sorry. Can you guys hear me? I didn't realize. Sorry. Okay, cool. I didn't even realize like human trafficking is a term. I always thought like this is a domestic abuse situation, that my husband, whatever he's doing with me or the way he's treating me, it is a domestic abuse, and it's so common in developing countries and societies such as us that we don't even realize. It was my lawyer in the US who, as we were proceeding for the court and investigation with the FBI, she said that it's called human trafficking. And I had to Google that term. in order to understand what it really means. And since then, I have been doing my own research, working with different organizations. I serve on a multitude of advisory committees in the US with different organizations on local level. I'm based in New York, but I'm working with different organizations in New York and on the national level. We just recently concluded a national curriculum for an institute that did not exist before. It's called the HEAL Institute. It is specifically designed for the survivors of human trafficking all over the US, so we could have a unified platform and curriculum for everybody. When it comes to services and protecting the victims, I find it very helpful and very well organized and unified over there. I wasn't really sure what the systems look like in Pakistan and how they operate. I had to do my research while I was preparing for this conference. And I'm glad that just recently Pakistan has launched helpline, like national helpline for the trafficking victims. The US has that. What US operates from is Trafficking Victims Protection Act. And from that act, the services for the survivors, for the victims, their protection, and their empowerment efforts, they all stem from that act. So I don't know, I'm like all over the place with this. But definitely Pakistan can learn a lot from the practices that the US has. And I see the efforts being made by different organizations. And as Uzma and other speakers said, there are organizations that are coming together, making efforts, protecting the vulnerable population. That is great, really, to see, because what traffickers do, they spot the vulnerabilities, and there are so many weak spots and vulnerabilities. Basically, as human beings, we all have our vulnerabilities. When I look back at my story, I mean, sometimes it's unbelievable that how could a woman like myself, who is educated, sound, professionally very, very sound, I built my life from the scratch, and yet I fell victim to human trafficking. How could that, like, it was, for a very long time, I couldn't even convince my own self. Like, it was such a huge shame, blame, and guilt that I went through. Like, Ansa, this should not be happening to you. How could you not see this coming? But at the same time, as now I work with other survivors, I realize that we are just human. It is just being human, that we have our vulnerabilities. Everybody has. Like, sometimes we are looking for love. We are looking for better economic situations for ourselves. We are looking for better job, changing places, and these traffickers, they spot those vulnerabilities, and that's where they exploit them, right?
Thank you so much. I know it's not easy to share your own story because it's.
I don't know if
if
the time
you're
permits.
very
I would
brave
love
that you were
to.
able to do that. Yeah, it is very difficult to share the story. There's so many sentiments and everything.
Absolutely.
Before we move on to our next question, I'd like to welcome our speaker for this session. She's a vocal advocate for women's rights and has worked to promote gender equality in Pakistan. She is known for her strong stance on social issues and her unwavering commitment to serving the people of Pakistan. She's a member of the National Assembly and has served as Minister for Women Development, Deputy Speaker, and Acting Governor. Welcome, Ms. Shaila Raza, for this session. You may continue with the questions.
Thank you, Shaila. We're really glad to have you on stage with us. Yes, your journey is always inspiring for every woman in Pakistan, and now we are happy that you are in the parliament and you are now MNA. But we have seen you in different roles of deputy speaker and MP. How beautifully you have represented women and the issues related to every person in the country. But regarding human trafficking, what role women parliamentarians can play to give relief to the victims? Because we have heard, Ansa, it's not just the law or the policy, or even arresting people. Again, a whole rehabilitation process is involved, because it has the emotional effect that it has on the victims. So what role women parliamentarians can play to take this initiative further? Because Uzma has shared with us that policies are being there. We have the trafficking law. So what role you think women
First of
parliamentarians can
all,
play?
I'm thankful. And secondly, I want to highlight the Sindh government's acts, different acts for the Sindh government established vigilance committees in each districts of the province with an aim to abolish slavery and forced labor. Secondly, in 2015, the government of Sindh enacted the Sindh Bonded Labor System Abolition Act to proscribe the forced labor in all its manifestation. In 2017, the Sindh government also passed the Sindh Prohibition of Employment or Children Act to eliminate involvement of the minor children in labor. So, first of all, we will focus the legislation. And as MNA, it will be my first priority to not only raise the voice for creation of the uniform law among all provinces of Pakistan, because it's create problem especially for the children under the age of 18, both girls and boys. They the criminal using this tactics, and they kidnapped and seduced the girls especially, and then trafficking them from Sindh to other provinces. In Sindh, we have passed the law, a special law, Sindh Marriage Restraint Act, and according to that, the child under the child definition, less than 18. Sorry, I'm I was facing a lot of problem because all the red zone is cordon.
Okay.
So with the help of this act, we provide it the protection. We're providing the protection to all the children, including girls and boys. So it's the first duty of the parliamentarian to do the legislation for that, and trying to make coordination among the different departments, because I have already discussed in this conference when came last year. Lack of coordination among the different department is the main reason. At different time when the case come, and when the MN case is highlight. Otherwise, no coordination among the department. And as I was the minister when I organized a meeting, all the IGs and all the DIGs in the IG office. Then when I discussed all the problems, so then the different SHOs also were online, and they told us more than 15 girls, more than 15 girls in a week leave their house. With the support of the social media and the others, they left their home, and not more than one case is reported, but with the help of the jirga and the police SHOs, they not report the case and resolve themselves at the district level. Most of the time the parents not interested, because they make the matter of the honor how to explain the girl leave the home. So it's necessary to create the awareness through the media, through the different social active workers and the others, to please raise the voice if your daughter, and even as the topic is the women and the girls, but this is problem also with the boys too. So if but especially if the matter of the women and the girl, so please raise the voice. This is our first duty as parliamentarian to aware the people. Okay, this is not the matter of the honor, this is the matter of the life of your women, like the girls and the others. So we will work on legislation especially, and trying to use the media and other way of awareness. That is the main duty.
Thank you so much, Shella. Aisha, over to you again. Like as Shella said, that in most of the cases, parents and close relatives are involved in the trafficking of children and women, especially. So, what measures can be taken to address this side of human trafficking?
Let me answer this question by introducing you to Rizwana. As you're all aware, Rizwana, a young maid, 14 years old, was hired underage in the home of a sitting civil judge. She traveled hundreds of kilometers from her hometown, Sargodha, for work, and willingly, was sent by her mother, her parents, to another city. And where does she end up? She ends up in a hospital in Lahore, badly beaten up, skull cracked, bones broken, skin burnt. And when I spoke to her mother in the hospital as to why she had sent her daughter, Rizwana, one of 10 children, into labor, she said she was burdened by the weight of her circumstances. She couldn't make ends meet. She had too many children. Perhaps if she had fewer children, better economic means, she would not have done so. So it is a complex issue. And yet, when I say this, we have child rights activists like Nadia Jamil joining us in saying that families should not make their poverty an excuse for sending their children into labor. So we are at the NCRC, we are also advocating for governments to provide better economic means, whether through interest-free loans or expanding further social safety nets, so that families and people like Rizwana's mother are not forced to send their children into labor at an age where most of us send our children to school. Second, I think there is an urgent need for us to talk about family planning here. Pakistan's growing at 2.55%. And as Rizwana's mother said herself, if she had fewer children, she may not have been forced to send her daughter into the dark, dangerous world of child labor. So family planning services should be made accessible to families so that they can opt for less children who they can bring up better and safely. And of course, education. If you can educate children, we are also pushing for governments to change the curricula to add vocational training, because lots of families, according to ILO studies, say that even if we had a school next door, we will not still send our children to do matriculation, because it doesn't end up helping you earn any money. So they instead send them to earn in domestic labor or to beg on the roads, etc. So vocational training, life skill based training can help them earn better, more respectfully there. And then I would like to use this opportunity of the presence of parliamentarians in the forum here to say that we were waiting for new assemblies, legislative assemblies to take oath, and our child domestic labor bill is sitting ready to be introduced in the parliament. So we have two parliamentarians here, and I'd request you to please ensure support for this bill, which will criminalize child domestic labor, ensure that our children are not forced into labor. I think that's the least we can do. But as I said, and by the way, the Commission has also introduced recently a policy brief on child trafficking, which we have shared with Ministry of Interior, the FIA, the National Police Bureau, parliaments, and all. It is a very comprehensive analysis of how we can improve our Trafficking in Persons Act, what institutional steps we need to take to strengthen enforcement, and what we can do at the community level to raise awareness over this issue. So when we were drafting the Child Domestic Labor Act, we were very tempted, and we did in the first draft punish the caregivers, the parents, as much as the employers. Because we thought, how could you send your child into labor, knowing Pakistan's socio-cultural practices, negative practices, the risk the mother takes to send her child into labor, the risk that Rizwana's mother took. And I've woken up many a times in the middle of the night to ask myself what I would have done differently had I been Rizwana's mother. And I shudder at the thought that it must not have been an easy choice for her to make. Exactly. So therefore, I'd encourage everyone to please go to our website to read this, what reforms we have recommended over here. So I mean, it's not a very easy decision to make here. So caregivers have to be given the support in different ways that I've mentioned over here. But we need to build narratives, and communities need to work with commissions like ours. And I see a very able leader sitting here, Asara, who heads the commission on the Child Welfare Protection Bureau in Punjab. And it is child protection authorities like hers who need to give shelter to save children who are in bonded labor. But communities need to come forth and report. So if they're not reported, how do you go ahead and take action against such mafias or such employers out there?
Thank you so much. Uzma, Punjab is always at the top of, if you talk about violence against women or in trafficking also. In 2018 statistics, around 52% women trafficking took place from Punjab. So it is maybe because there's more education, the police is accessible, the cases are reported, media is also active in almost all parts of Punjab province. But again, you have said that policies have been made, law has also been approved. What challenges are there for implementation of these laws and policies? What is your observation?
Actually, I think the major flaw does not lie in the legislation. We are an overly legislated assembly in Punjab. There are more than 100 laws for the protection of women, children, and other vulnerable groups. The problem is with the implementation. The rules of business never see the light of the day. Somehow, we have to get rid of this lacuna in all our laws. We have to give a deadline. Okay, here's the law. You have 6 months to make the rules of business, the policies, and the implementation follows. If there are no rules of business, what's going to happen? The law will just be there on paper. It will not, filter down and help the people or the community for which the law has been enacted. When you talk about Rizwana, I'm sorry, it pains me a lot, but there are thousands of Rizwanas in our society. They're never reported. Why? Because people get away with it. We did make the domestic workers law. It was passed in 2019. It clearly states no child is allowed to work as a domestic help, and if the age limit is given, if they're 15 or 16 or whatever, then the hours have to be reduced and they have to, be given education or whatever other rights, are due to them. But has the law been implemented? That is the problem. Saving one child is not going to help the society at large. We have to make sure that our departments, they are fully aware, they are fully empowered to make sure that anybody who's employing children at home, they're taken to task. The punishments are also there. Now, let's talk about early child marriage. I myself, drafted this law for Punjab because we were at a disparity. Sindh, like Shaila just mentioned, they've already have this 18 years of age limit. But in Punjab, it is 16. And what happens is that you marry off a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, Who knows how old she is? There's no document to show. The problem is that, poverty is a key factor. Key factor. Our population is, there's a population, the more poor the family is, the more children they have. A well-off family will have one or two, and a person who can barely make ends meet will have 10 kids. So what do you expect them to do? It's the economic compulsion which makes them send their children to homes where they can be abused, when they can be exploited, when they can be beaten, but they still do it. It's a matter of survival for their families. And it's not just girls, it's boys too. Let's talk about the kiln brick workers, the bonded labor. The whole entire families are trafficked. Entire families. They're all bonded. Not just the woman, not just the children, even the man. They're slaves. They don't have any rights. They're caught in this debt trap and they don't know how to get out of it. We need to help all these people. The laws and then the implementation, the labor departments, all departments have to play their role, respective roles, if we want this menace to end. So this is where now, as legislators, I think our standing committees are very important. Standing committees are the eyes and ears of the parliament. They have to make sure that they monitor whether the departments are implementing, making their rules of business, and following the policies that have been given by the government. So it's all interconnected. It's all combined networking of all departments. Different departments are involved in this. Now, many children, many girls are being trafficked from Sindh, from Rahim Yar Khan into Punjab. Why? Because there they know that there is a law. If child marriage takes place, they'll be held accountable. But as soon as they enter Punjab, they say they're free. Well, fine. Get her married off. Actually, she's being sold off. Again, many compulsions. The key one being poverty. So we now have to be stringent, focused, serious about implementing all the laws that we have made. And I think we are really moving towards that. Thanks to all these different organizations, to US Embassy, all these people who are helping us, go in that right direction. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Isma. Yes, the social mindset is the biggest challenge. I guess that's what you are trying to make the point. And again, then every law enforcing agency, every stakeholder is involved in this. Even the providing the technical NAFTAC that provides technical training to women. Okay, we need to work, but again, are we capable or do we have a capacity to survive in any economic situation? That is very important. Ansa, I'll ask again, because the human trafficking, it involves, cross-border legal issues. Then again, we have seen the mafias that are involved, who are well aware of, different kinds of definition and laws that different countries have. So how difficult it becomes to put to account someone who's involved in this trafficking issue, and again providing relief to a survivor. How difficult it becomes in this situation?
So I will speak from my personal experience because I am a survivor of transnational human trafficking, and it did not look like human trafficking or anything, as I mentioned earlier. I was married to a guy who came to Pakistan looking, for settling down, and I got married through a matchmaker and went to the US and ended up in a trafficking situation. And as I realized, like, I am a victim and then a survivor of human trafficking, I started to explore, like, what can be done in this area, how the perpetrator or the traffickers can be held accountable. I spoke from the UN platform, and I reached out to every other body. And as I as I was working, and I'm still working with those agencies, I realized there are so many barriers to that. Um, Beginning with uh, let's say the terminology is even, for example, the terms that are used in Pakistan for certain crimes, they are not in accordance, or not the similar terms even used in the US, let's say, in my case, right, or in other countries where these victims are being trafficked. The agency, the data share, the data transfer is not as smooth. The time lag is huge part in it. Then there are political sensitivities that they have to take into account when they are prosecuting these criminals, um, and that things like that. Because I thought seriously, just like there is an Interpol, right, for the crimes, the drug-related crimes or other crimes, why can't they prosecute somebody who is trafficking multiple individuals from one country to another, and especially developed countries such as US, why that person can't be held accountable? And then I realized, and over time, my realization is becoming more and more about the fact that there are barriers that prevent that from happening. There are diplomats who are involved in trafficking, and yet they can't be prosecuted because of the diplomatic amenities that they have. There are other individuals who are operating on the international level, and they can't be held accountable because, and then there's a time thing, and the exchange of information between different countries. All these factors make it very, very difficult for those perpetrators to be held accountable. And going back to an earlier point that Uzma was mentioning, because I'm personally big on empowerment, and that's why the organization I started, the name of it is Empowerment Square, because I believe if individuals are empowered, there are less chances of them falling victims to any kind of abuse, let alone the human trafficking, right? Because it's a mindset. Once a person understands their value, who they are, they're well aware, they're educated, they know who to approach when they need help, and of course, help is available out there. People just need to be empowered, educated, and have the awareness that they can reach out. The help is available. Like there's now national helpline for that. They can do that. So education, again, especially the girls' education, because as women in a society such as Pakistan or any developing country, we are very, very vulnerable. We have so many weak points. So it is imperative really for everybody to come together and invest in girls' education to make them empowered, value them as human beings, and also the racial justice. I think it plays a huge part. While we see certain sectors of our society not as valuable, and we abuse them and do not acknowledge their rights, and that develops a mindset where those people, or those communities, they start to see themselves as less valuable, and they become more vulnerable to these kind of crimes. And that's why we see there are hundreds and hundreds of women, young girls, who are being trafficked in all countries from Pakistan, basically. And it pains me because I see myself in every one of those girls who are going through that, and I can feel their pain, and that's why I am in this, and I like to participate and share my story, and just play a part in whichever capacity I can.
Thank you, thank you. Answer, your effort is really valuable, and I'm sure that only a person who has passed through this experience can feel the pain of people who are into this passing through this situation. Again, Shaila, I
Now
would
I'm
like
okay.
to ask a question about, we have laws, and we talked about the challenges that we face in implementing these laws. But again, the weakest side, we as we observe as a journalist, is the rehabilitation Either it is of victims of violence against women, because Sindh is always taking the lead, in providing the right laws and the structure. But again, the structure is not working the way it must be working. Maybe it is, again, as Aisha has pointed out, it's because of the population or the poverty that we have actually in our society, and we need a comprehensive rehabilitation mechanism. But what can be done to improve the rehabilitation mechanism?
Okay, thank you. Now I'm okay. First of all, we all knows the reason behind this, but as I already discussed, in case of Dua Zehra, I resolved 26 cases like Dua Zehra, from Sindh to Punjab, from Sindh to other province. First, lack of will among the departments of the provinces. As the Sindh police come for any case to in Punjab or in other province, no one ready to cooperate with the police. Even the police department is not cooperating with the police of the one province like Sindh. And 2 or 3 days, I was worried about it, how to interact with the police officers of the Punjab. And I used Twitter account from my Twitter account and tagged the CM of that time. Please listen the voice of the girl, parents of the girl, and then finally all the police from the Pakistan. I'm very depressing. I'm explain very depressing in very depressing way. They were not cooperating even with the parents of the victim in each and every case. And every time they were focusing, you provide us lunch, dinner, and if you want to live some other place, it's okay, we are living here. And the parents of the victim were trying to give the different contacts. The criminals are continuously in contact of them, and they are the location is that even they were giving the location to the police, and they were relaxed. So there is a lack of will in the department and lack of coordination among the department of the two provinces. And the second things which I experienced in different level, they have everything to search for the support of search of the victim, but they were not doing. As the chief minister Mohsen Naqvi, I want salute to him. And then they make a committee and a focal person and give me support in different cases. And those girls, not only about the Dua Zehra. After that, the other girls, the other girls, the other girls. Then he formed a committee and a focal person, and then the police of the Sindh, and then we were successful to make made a coordination among the police of the Sindh and the Punjab. But again, face the problem when because the criminals are very active and economically empowered, and they moving with the girls from one province to the other province, the parents receiving the location, but not police receiving the location, but the police of KP better. Because I'm not creating these things, but at that time the officer from the Sindh were there, and he made the coordination. Then again, the girl's location found in Kashmir. Again, we coordinated, but in Punjab we faced lot of problems. So one thing which I want to create the uniformity in the laws and in legislators keep the vigilance on enforcement of the laws. And second, you asked about when in 2018 there was four functional um, you can say the safe houses or the different other what we say for the others. But now in Sindh, in 30, we have 30 districts, but 26 safe home, and now 8 shelter homes, more than 8 shelter homes. At that time, 4 shelter homes: Karachi, Hyderabad, Nawabshah, and Ladkana, Sakkar 5. Now in Mirpur Khas, Jacobabad, and different areas. And inshallah, after the budget, they will appoint the all staff, and the coordination among the vigilant committees and the safe house and the police will be again very strong. And this is the duty of the parliamentarian to check and balance the coordination among the parliamentarians, because they have the effect in their areas, and the coordination among the departments and social workers and the others, and create the awareness, because the first hour after the disappearance is very important. And
That's
if
true.
we
And we believe that Women Parliamentary Caucus, we will be having a very strong Women Parliamentary Caucus.
unfortunately, I'm cutting you. The Women Parliamentary Caucus is not active because they can organize the different programs at different level. They can visit at the time of the case, but it's my experience. I was also the patron of the Sindh Women Parliamentary Caucus, because I was the deputy speaker at that time. And there is a problem at different level, and the women parliamentarians not taking interest in at each level. And okay, she is the coordinator and she is the other, as we are not in any position. So
But again, we have hope that
with the passage of
with
time,
passage of time, it will improve, and with having a strong voices in the parliament, it's going to play a very effective role in future. I think our time is closing to end. Yes, yes, that is what I will just 1 minute to give your last comments, and I hope it will focus more on what can be done,
Sure.
what more we need to do.
Sure. Thank you. I'd just like to one clarify that child trafficking, bonded labor, domestic labor is not restricted to one province. It's all over the country. While I highlighted Rizwana's case, there's a very disturbing case of Fatma Pharaoh from Sindh, Ranipur, which the commission also took up, of a girl allegedly sexually abused and murdered, and her body was exhumed then. And the Senate committee we worked with them. We took cognizance of this. Unfortunately, conviction in sexual rape and gender-based violence cases in our country is less than 2%. And that's where the anti-rape legislation comes into play. But that's a long discussion. Maybe we keep it for another time. I'd just like to add here that while the commission has urged all political parties, we urged them before the elections were held to add child rights as a dedicated chapter in their manifestos, given that 40% of our population comprises of children below 18 years of age. There's something all of us present in this hall can do from today. When we walk out today, let's commit to becoming advocates for change. And let's ensure we speak up against this silent exploitation that's happening in our midst. And, when we see, let's not turn a blind eye when we see children hired as domestic help in our communities, in our neighborhoods, sometimes within our own homes also. And I think that is the message I want to leave here today, that before we ask others to do something about this menace and trafficking, let's look around us and speak up in our spheres of influence, whether it be our neighborhoods, our workplaces, or our own homes also. So let's liberate these children's dreams, and let's ensure that no child is ever forced into domestic labor around us. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I just want to add here very quickly that we've also, the Commission has entered into an MOU with SSDO, and we'll continue to work with credible organizations like SSDO to raise our voice and to sort of scale up the work that we are doing and take it down to the grassroots level. Thank you.
Thank you, Aisha. Yes, last words. Thank you.
I think there's no shortcut to education, social, economic, and political empowerment of women. And yesterday, in the inaugural speech of our Chief Minister in Punjab, Mariam Nawaz Saiba, she gave us the good news that we will form a women caucus immediately, inshallah, which has not been done for years and years now in Punjab. So things are looking up.
Thank you.
Think
Answer.
one last comment before we open the platform
for question
yeah,
answers. Yes.
a couple of questions. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would only say an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So we have to be heavily working on prevention combined with the empowerment of survivors. So please look around anywhere you see somebody going through an abuse, extend a hand for them. Prevention plus empowerment. That's the way.
Thank you, Answer. Thank you. One last one from Shana.
Create the awareness in the society to for the vulnerable people who face all the problems of the trafficking and the domestic violence, and after as they came in the shelter house, then all the problems of their life trying to resolve, to adjust in the society again.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shara. Now we will open the floor for question answers. If you have any question in your mind, the only request is just try keeping it as brief as possible so that majority or the maximum people have the chance to ask question. Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah.
My question is with Senator Aisha. We've spoken a lot about trafficking in women and children, but there's one community, the transgender community, whose trafficking starts right from the point when they're born. There's this concept of chela and gurus, and they pass on from one guru to another. What is the state of Pakistan doing with regards to prevention of trafficking specific to the transgender community? Thank you.
Thank you. If you look at the National Commission on the Rights of Child Act, and when we work for children, whether children in bonded labor, domestic labor, child marriage, we're talking about all children. And that relates to children of transgenders also. And therefore, we're as seized and cognizant of challenges they face. They are children of Pakistan also. So we do not want to discriminate against them, but at the same time, keep them in mind, whether they're children with special needs here, whether they're children, minorities, transgender children. So we're working across the board for everyone in the same manner.
Just add one thing to this. Regrettably, in Punjab, as yet we don't have any legislative protection for transgender community. We did have a bill ready to be tabled, but it got scuttled because somehow, the Sharia court and some media people thought that it was against the injunctions of Islam, which is not true. I think they suffer a great deal of violence and trafficking. The ratio of rape amongst them is the highest, I feel. So we need to enact proper legislation to protect their rights. And inshallah, in this tenure, we will go ahead with it. And this is what our Chief Minister mentioned also in her speech yesterday.
Like the suggestion for the women, like the transgender, involve them at different key posts in the different department in Sindh. Iqbal, 1% quota for the transgender for job, and now they can UC. At UC level, they are the counselor, one counselor from transgender.
My name is Narendra. Uh, my question is from Ansar Doreen. Although you have touched upon and how you've been trapped in the trafficking in the US, could you please just tell us uh, when was the time that you realized that you are being trapped in the trafficking, and how did you cope up with this situation? If you could just share your story in detail. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you for your question. I actually did not. As I mentioned earlier, I thought it is just a domestic abuse situation, like it happens, and we see it all around us in Pakistan. And I was living in Pakistan for the longest time of my life. Uh, it was when it got to the point where it was unbearable, and I saw even my family being affected by that, because the next target was my younger sister, who's 10 years younger than me, and my son from my previous marriage. That's when I realized, like, it's not going to look good for the entire family, and I decided to get out of that situation. That's a long story, on it in itself. Uh, I When I reached out to the agencies, and I was working with my lawyer with one of the nonprofit organizations in New York that now I collaborate with. My lawyer mentioned the word human trafficking. That's when I realized it's a human trafficking situation. And I had to, as I said earlier, I had to do my own research in order to understand what human trafficking even means. So I always mention that the empowerment or the education or the awareness is not just, on the high level that we devise these protocols or the rules. It is going all the way to the grassroots community levels and helping them understand, what those different terms mean and how they can utilize the system or the resources that are available when they go through such a situation and get the help needed. And it is everything is connected, as everybody was saying, the law enforcement agencies, the legal system, and everybody in between. We have to work diligently in order to combat this situation. Uh, I wish I had more time to share more details from my story, but you can go on my website, ansanooreen.com, and there are some details, and hopefully in the future, I would have the opportunity to share the entire story with you guys. But yeah, I did not know that I'm being trafficked. For me, it was just a situation. I got married to this guy in Pakistan. He it took me to the US, and then the situation got out of hand. For me, no, I did not understand I was being trafficked at all.